Okay, well, let's get started. Thanks for joining us today for our presentation. My name is Stephen Rivas. I'm the product manager at WIN-911 Software. Today, we're going to be talking about our latest product release, which we're calling WIN-911 2021. It's the result of over a year's worth of simplifying our product, and we're excited to finally be able to share it with you guys. What you're going to find in this release and what we're going to talk about today is a completely rebuilt user interface that was directly influenced by SI and end user feedback that we gathered from design review sessions and support tickets. And you also see a smaller resource footprint as we change some of our technology stack. So that should help out there. What we're going to do is I'll lead you through the changes in the presentation. So the changes to the product. I'll go through a live demo so you can see what it looks like and how the changes affect WIN-911. Then we'll talk about upgrades and upgrade eligibility. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A section. So at the end, rather during the presentation, if you have questions, again, throughout the presentation, make sure you go to the GoToWebinar questions section and enter your questions there, and we'll answer those at the end. Just a second here. I see somebody saying no audio. Arish, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you
Okay,
just
great.
fine.
Then, William, I think it might be on your end, seeing as Arish can hear me. Arish Rojas is also on the presentation. He is our channel sales manager for Aviva, so he'll be helping out when necessary. All right, cool. All right, so before we started on this project a couple years ago, or not a couple years ago, it feels like a couple years ago, we wanted to ensure that we had everyone in our organization on the same page. So early last year, we created a product vision and product principles to serve as our guideposts for all the teams as we set out to improve WIN-911. And we utilize these as we are working through our design stages and development of 2021. And we use those principles to build mock-ups and designs for 2021. And last summer, what we did was we took those designs, had over 25 design reviews through web conferences so that our users could directly influence what we were going to develop. And we had never done this before, and we found the process fairly rewarding as it let us know where we were on the right track, and more importantly, I'd say it's where we weren't. A lot of features that we were excited about, we ended up just dropping those off as they weren't that important to you guys. So after all those sessions, we began working toward a beta program, and we launched that in December, and that provided even more insights into the product. And the reason I'm mentioning this is just so I can say if you participated in that process, I wanted to extend our gratitude and thanks for your help on this project. I really think we couldn't have done it without you guys. So again, thank you very much. Let's talk about some of the changes here. The first thing that you'll notice, obviously, is that we've changed the name. And there's a reason for that. It's not just to change the name because everybody else uses a year at the end of their product name. We've had an issue over the past couple years regarding the name of the product. Back in 2014, we launched as WIN-911 Enterprise, and soon after that, we dropped that name off, and it was just called WIN-911. And that created a problem as it's the name of our previous product. And so when our customers contact us, we spend a lot of time just trying to figure out which version of WIN-911 they're using. It also creates it hard for any kind of messaging because people don't always know what product we're talking about. So as a result, what we did to try and fix this is we stuck 2021 to the end, and that is how we will continue naming WIN-911 in the future. We're not getting rid of the license level names. Those will stay the same. So you'll have standard, interactive, and advanced. A key thing to point out is that our first release, which is today, was not going to include advanced features. However, we're targeting a Q3 release for that. I'll discuss how that impacts upgrades, later in the presentation. It's just basically there is no advanced license level in the 2021 until later. Another thing to mention is that subsequent releases, we're going to be calling them, like when the next one's going to be called WIN-911 2021 R2, and a subsequent release after that would be R3 and so forth. We'll change the year part of the name every time we update our core libraries, which I won't go into all that, but for the most part, we'll go R1, R2, R3, things like that. So before we jump into what the new UI looks like and some of the features, I wanted to explain to you the significant changes that we made to the product. The first is that we're moving away from our browser-based Silverlight UI and to a desktop application that we call WIN-911 Workspace. Over the years, we've polled a couple of our customers, or many of our customers actually, to determine if sticking with the browser-based UI was important to them, and many of them had no preference. A desktop app was the quickest solution for us, and so that's what we chose to do. You'll still be able to run a Workspace on remote machines, but a separate installer is not available for this release. It will be available later. So it will still be possible to remotely configure WIN-911. That's what I'm trying to say there. We also have removed the IIS requirement from 2021, which we used to host app servers and web services for our WIN-911 modules, and we decided this was unnecessary and the source of a lot of our product support issues. So we decided just let's get rid of it. And so what we're doing is we've consolidated our architecture by having all our runtimes host all the web services. So the Windows services that run WIN-911, they host everything rather than leaning on IIS for some of that. Doing this, we expect it, well, it does, it's reduced our installation times by quite a bit. It's decreased our system resource usage fairly dramatically. In some cases, I've seen as much half of the resource usage on your server machines. And I fully expect it to cut down on a lot of our support cases when it comes to installation, deployment, and enterprise environments where IIS is or has been quite a bit of a pain. So those are the two major changes I wanted to discuss. So now we'll look at some of the things in the UI. And just let me check over here. I still have some people saying they don't have any audio. Is there anybody? Okay, so all right, it seems to be isolated issue. Sorry about that. Okay, so we'll look at the navigation menu next. So this is the old navigation menu you're looking at, and we've made a move from this over-the-top style menu to traditional side navigation. The old menu was pretty hard to navigate. Many of our users, including myself, would try to go click on a menu and then they'd end up clicking on the wrong thing, and it was because you had to be really precise with your mouse movements on that sub menu. It was incredibly frustrating, and I'm very glad that we got rid of it. So switching over to a traditional side navigation menu, we've eliminated that problem, and it becomes much quicker to navigate through the application. And I know it seems kind of weird to be highlighting a menu change like that, but it is made a significant difference. It's very difficult for me to go back to the version 4 product just because of this change itself. So I'm really happy with that. You can also collapse it just like any menu to give yourself some more real estate on the screen to work on your configuration. And when you're working on your notification policies, that will help quite a bit. So what we'll do is I'm going to talk through the configuration of WIN-911 here. And when you set up WIN-911, I typically talk about it in 3 different sections. And the first is creating contacts. So you want to create the people that you're going to send notifications to. And once you've created your contacts, then you can start setting up your alarm escalation, which is your call out list. You can't create a list if you don't have anyone to put in it, for example. And we're doing that with what we call notification policy. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then lastly, you bring your alarms in. So that's your data source modules. How do you bring alarms into WIN-911 and assign them to those notification policies? So we'll just go through in that order and talk about the changes we made to each section. First up is the contact directory. when we were redesigning WIN-911 Workspace, one of our goals was to try and consolidate as much as we could. The most extensive consolidation effort, I think, is resulted in what we're calling the contacts directory, which is where you're going to configure all the operators that are going to receive the alarm notifications. So when you would create contacts in past versions, and I'm specifically talking about Enterprise or V4, you had to navigate all over the UI. So there's a separate workspace for email, separate one for mobile, separate one for SMS, and that was hard to navigate, and it was only compounded by the navigation menu I just mentioned. So we decided we were going to go back to more of a version 7 or WIN-911 version 7 phone book style configuration that people were more familiar with. It's not exactly the same as a phone book, but it's very similar and much easier to use. These changes that we made to it make it much quicker to make quick changes, like to change to uh, um, your schedule or to your roles and things like that. So that is the contact directory. So that is in much better shape. We've also uh, made a new format editor for email, SMS, and voice notifications. In version 4, again, you had to create, if you wanted to create a custom format for your notifications, you had to edit what's called XSL, and that's basically a markup language. And it is incredibly flexible, but it's also really complicated and too complicated for most people. With the new editor, you can just type static text and insert these dynamic alarm property placeholders into the format. And then these placeholders are going to be replaced during runtime. If you get an alarm, obviously it's going to fill in the information from the alarm. And we've made it so that the placeholders themselves are going to match the terminology of your SCADA system, because we have to abstract everything. We connect to multiple different things. We abstract those properties and we have our own names for them. And a lot of times people, they don't match up with the SCADA name. So we've decided we'll make these placeholders match what you're connecting to. In the example on the right side, you're seeing a format that was built for Factory Talk. We're also going to keep the XSL formats if you've used them in the past and have created a custom format. We don't want you to lose that. So you will keep those and they'll be migrated over to 2021. You can still create them as well. It's just you'll have the option. Do you want to use the simple format editor or do you want to use the XSL editor? So the choice will be yours when you're creating one. Next, we've got the schedule utility. I'm sorry, the schedules. And you create schedules for your contacts. When you create them, you assign these schedules to them. And if let's say a contact is in a call out list and an alarm occurs, WIN-911 is going to check to see if that contact schedule is active. If so, it's going to send a notification to them. If not, then they're going to be skipped over. And you're free to create or rather share the same schedule with multiple contacts or create individual schedules for each person receiving notifications. You can do it however you please, whatever works for your organization. The tool is similar to other calendars you've used in the past, like Outlook or Google Calendars. We haven't made a whole lot of changes to scheduling in this version. So if you've used them before in previous versions, then you'll be familiar with it. We did add a new feature which allows you to import and export schedules using ICS files. What this will allow you to do is if you have a schedule in Outlook, then you can export it out of there and import it into WIN-911. This is it doesn't stay synced up. So every time you'd make changes in one, you'd have to move it over to WIN-911, or you can use it to back up your schedules or to export them out and push them into another WIN-911 system if you wanted to. So that is the changes. Those are the changes we made to scheduling. And next up are notification policies. And this is again one of the bigger changes that we made. Over the last couple of years, we've repeatedly heard that the tactics and strategies were too complicated, and usually, typically, I agree. Every time I introduce a tactic to a user, I have to tell them that a tactic is a call-out list, and I've never felt great about that when the name we've given something isn't immediately apparent, and you have to explain exactly what it is. So what we've done is we've removed tactics and strategies from WIN-911 and we've replaced them with a single object that we're calling a notification policy. So now you can build all your contact lists and escalation logic in a single place. You don't have to tie anything together other than tell your alarms to use that particular notification policy. So instead of configuring your strategy policies, which uh, again, it depends on your level of experience with WIN-911. You don't have to use that complicated strategy tool anymore. You only need to select the alarm states that you're interested in sending. And I'll show you that in the live demo so that is a little bit more clear. Now, because we're not supporting advanced in this first release, we're only including basic escalation for now, meaning, again, we haven't migrated the equivalent of the advanced tactics over. We've just focused on bringing over the concept of the basic tactics and trying to match our version 7 functionalities as close as possible. A lot of our users utilize the basic tactics anyway, so we figured it was a quick way to get this out. For alarm sources, we've made a few changes to them. Mainly is that we've consolidated all the tabs when you're out configuring them to a single workspace, which makes it much easier to navigate. We've also improved our alarm subscription control and how we're displaying tags. Users have been asking us for an OPC Heartbeat to be added for a while now, so we finally added that in, as well as changed the import for OPC tags, so it's a little bit easier to bring those in rather than the older style that we had. Also, just to note, we're not going to be supporting Aviva Edge in this release. We will add it to our next release. Again, that's going to be WIN-911 2021 R2, and that we're targeting for the end of Q3. This is the subscription control I was just talking about. And in this screenshot, we're showing factory talk alarm and events is what it's, I mean, that's what this screenshot is. And if you're not familiar with subscriptions, they allow you to filter alarms into WIN-911 instead of importing tags and maintaining that list. In the case of some data sources, this is the only way to monitor alarms. Factory talk is one of them. You can create multiple subscriptions per data source and assign each one to a different notification policy. So you can see in the screenshot, I'm filtering what I'm calling high priority alarms, and I'm sending it to a notification policy called Texas Water Alarms. So you can create underneath that, you can have another one that goes to a different notification policy and so on. So alarms are filtered on certain criteria, and that's going to vary from data source to data source, but usually involves filtering by name of some kind, grouping of some kind, and a priority. My preferred way to do this is to create subscriptions that use shared properties like a group or area. When you do it this way and you want to add or remove an alarm from WIN-911, whether it's going to receive it, you just need to change that alarms group or area, and then it will automatically be included or excluded from callouts. So it makes it much easier. So you're only managing it in one place in your SCADA system rather than importing tags and deleting tags and so on. So that is the new subscription control. I'll show you guys a demo of that in just a minute. Here is the OPC Heartbeat. When we enable it, it's going to ramp the value from 1 to 9 and then repeat indefinitely. And you may notice that version 7 would ramp all the way to 32,767 and then go back to 0. And this is only going to 9. The reason we've done this is because it's much easier to test internally and for you too, instead of waiting for 32,767 minutes and waiting to see if it's going to loop. You only have to wait 9 minutes and you'll be able to see if it's working the way you expect it to. So that's the Heartbeat. And last thing before we jump into the demo is we also have the operator workspace. This is an app that we created back for version 4. We called it the contacts utility. We renamed it to the operator workspace and made a few changes, mostly to support notification policies. And what you use this utility for is if you need to provide a quick way for your operators to make changes to either their schedule or their call out list without opening the main workspace, then you can run this utility from any system in your network as long as it has access to WIN-911. So typically what or what I would suggest doing is putting a button in an HMI screen. When you click on it, it's going to launch this application. An operator can change their schedule or change a call out list, hit the save button and close it. So it just comes straight up to your call out list. It makes it much quicker to make those changes. All right, so let's jump over to a demo. And Arish, if you're there, can you let me know if the blue screen is popped up here?
Yep, blue screen is on.
All right, cool. I was worried that might not work there, so that's good. So what we'll do is we're going to jump over to WIN-911 Workspace, and it will launch, and we'll see our navigation on the left over here. And we're going to go to directory. What I want to do is just add a user, and then we'll add some stuff to it. So I'll click on add new contact at the bottom, give it a name. And over here, what you're going to see are warnings about whether your gateway is configured. A gateway is what's used to actually send notifications. So if I was using SMS, I need to have a modem hooked up. And if the modem's not hooked up or configured, then I'm going to get a warning telling you that. So that's all that is. As soon as I set up an SMS gateway, then that would go away. I'm not going to use that for the demo, so it's not really important. So we'll go to add new connection on the bottom. I'll create a new email connection, put in my email address. You choose whether your connection can acknowledge alarms. This is not changed, it's just in a different spot. You choose the schedule, and then you have all the normal settings that you had for an email connection. These were spread over several tabs before in the last version. Now we're just displaying them all in one spot. So the main thing that I think people are going to change here is the schedule, and you can change the formats over here. So that's enough for now. So I'll save that. Well, I should have just clicked add new connection because I'm going to go back into it. So I'll add another connection, click mobile. I'll put a mobile connection in. And mobile is our mobile app for Android and iOS devices. It sends push notifications to your device when there's a new alarm, and then you open the app and you can read the alarm details and acknowledge alarms and so on. I'm not going to go into in depth about mobile today, but if you're interested in taking a look at that, there are webinars that we've done in the past about it that you're free to check out. Again, whether they can act and what the schedule would be. So these are built-in schedules that come with the product. If you want to use one, you can. I know a lot of people like to use the always schedule. And then you just got description alarm requests. So if you wanted to keep adding more and more, you could. You just click add new connection, go and come down here and select which one you want. So I'm done for now. What I want to do is create a new format for my email connection. So what we do is come over to format, click on the plus email button down here. We're on the simple section. If you went to XSL, you could see all the formats we had before. So we're on the simple side. We'll click on add a new email format. You just give it a name. Let's call it live demo format. And if you were doing reports, you choose, if this was a report format, you choose that here, and whether you're making this is because it's for email, whether it's going to be the body or the subject of the email. So you click down here and then you can start typing. So typically what you would do, you can put whatever you want as a label. You're just typing plain text here. So you could put time, and then you come over here to this add element button, and it will list out all the elements. Now this is showing for system platform. Some of these are going to be prepended with WIN-911. I'll show you what that means in a minute. But let's say I want to do the time. So what I'll do is I'll do event time, and I will start to see a preview down here. Normally the event time, actually it's active time, I think is localized, or maybe that's not the right one. Sorry. Where is it? There it is, initial event time, sorry. So that will show you the time that the alarm has come in into WIN-911. Then you can come down and do other things like what is the name gonna be? Come over here at click add element, find the name, put that in there. And this is dummy information that's just stuck in there to build previews. It doesn't mean anything in terms of what's in system platform or whatever data source you're using. It's just dummy information. And then we'll do one more thing for description. Come over to add element and find alarm message. So that is what is going to show if I were to use this in a format. I can save it, come over to my directory, come back into the connection I was working with, go to email, and change it to that new format that I made. So English, they're all English, obviously, and it says live demo format. So that's the one I just created. And then I would click the save button to make that change. But if I also want to change the schedule, I can come over to schedules, click add new schedule. It's going to come up with this shift box where you have to give it a name. You can type anything you want in here. It really doesn't matter. It's just what's going to show up on the calendar after you create it. And you have to choose your start time and end time. I'm going to choose, I know it's the 21st, but I'll come down to the 1st. And I'll change this one to the 1st and go to, we'll do 8 to 5. So 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now I want this to repeat every weekday. So I'll come into my edit recurrence button, select this, select the days I want it to recur. You could use one of these options over here. I never want it to end, so it'll just fill out the calendar forever. Say okay, and then you'll see it pop up. And now if I go to the next month, you'll just see they're always there. So now I can assign this schedule to an individual person, or later on with the R2 release, you can use it in the advanced tactics, which we'll be calling workflows in the next version. So I'll call this Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I would save it. If you wanted to export it, you just click this export button over here and you can save it to your desktop as an ICS file. If you wanted to import one, you just click the import button and you'd choose the ICS file that you want to import. Now these are using what are called appointments. So if you use an Outlook calendar, you're putting appointments on a calendar, and if they're on there, then those will import into this control. So that's what you're able to do with it. So if we go over to directory, back to directory, I will come to my schedule. Let's say I want to use that new one, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I can select it and click save. And then it will load, and I can also change my schedules just from this view. I don't have to double click on it to get down to that level. I could just make the changes here and then hit the save button. So if I wanted to change this one to the same, just do that, click save changes, and then it will submit that change down to that notifier. You can also add roles if you wanted to add roles where you can't really take advantage of roles with this version because we're not doing the workflows or the advanced tactics. But if you just want them for some kind of organization, you could utilize them for that. And you just gotta hit save. Okay, so that is the contact section and the main changes we made to that. Next, we'll go to a notification policy. So the notification policy is the escalation, who you're going to send alarms to, what order, that kind of thing. So we'll call this live demo notification policy. You can call it whatever you like. And you have two options. You can do a selected contacts or all contacts when you're setting it up. Selected contacts mean you're putting people in a list. All contacts means you just try to send a notification to everybody in the system, which you probably don't want to do. What we've got here is delay before call out list. This is going to let you set up a delay before you start notifying people. So typically you would use this if you had somebody in the operator room and you just wanted to give them enough time to respond to an alarm. Then you can put 10 minutes here, and the alarm would have to be there for 10 minutes before it starts calling out. Or if you have a chattering alarm and you want it to stay an alarm for, I don't know, a minute or two, you could use a delay to get around that too, because if the alarm clears, then nobody will get called. Down here is the call out list. If you want to add people to it, you click the add connection button, and then you have all the different connections in your system. You Let's just add all of them in. We'll just hit that button up there. If you want to put some settings on each one so that you don't have to go configure it for each one in the call out list, then you can set up your retries and your delays and whatnot right here, and it would be applied to all of the ones that you're adding rather than having to go do it one by one. So we'll say okay, and it will start loading them all into the call out list. If you want to change the order, so you don't like the way it came in, you can drag and drop people around in the list. You can also use these arrow buttons right here to change it. And so if you want to come down that way, you could. Right here is the retries upon failures. We put these tooltips in there to tell you what they are, but basically if there's a failure sending a notification, you can say I want to retry. And if you do enable that, yeah, you can choose how long do you want to wait before you retry. In the case of email, for example, or even mobile, maybe your internet connection wasn't working. It's probably not going to work again right away. So you can give yourself a delay to wait to see if the connection returns, and then you can try to send the notification again. And then what we have got here is the delay after successful notification. What that's going to do is how long you're going to wait before you go to the next person in the list. So that's been there forever. It's just if I want to send a notification to, I'll send these two to myself, and then I wanted to send the next one to Bill, but give them enough time to respond, then I can put 10 minutes here, and it would wait 10 minutes before it goes on to Bill. So that's nothing new. It's always been there. We have changed some of the terminology for some of these things, but it's essentially the same concept. We also have this option for expanding the list. If you had a ton of people in here and you wanted to just grow the list bigger so you can see what's in there, you can use that option there. All right. So down here, we've got how many times do you want to repeat a notification to a call out list. So what this will do is let you repeat this whole list once it gets to the end. So if you want to repeat until the policy stops, you can select that option, and then you can choose how long do you want to wait before you start the list over once you get to the end. So if you wanted to wait 10 minutes before you repeat it, you would put that in there. You also have you can choose 0 through 5. We figured if you wanted to do it 5 times, you probably just want to keep doing it until the policy stops. And so that's why that option is there. All right, so we'll go to the next section. So you'll notice these sections are built in these expander sections here. You can close them as you move along or leave them open and just scroll down. The next section is where you're choosing which alarm states you want to send out. So they're just these check boxes here. Do you want to send active and unacknowledged alarms? If you don't want to send one, you just uncheck it. And when the alarm's in that state, you won't send a notification. It's as simple as that. So you're not configuring those strategies anymore. You're just checking these boxes. Now, if an alarm does change state, you need to tell WIN-911 what you want it to do. So if I got an alarm and I started going through the list and now the alarm's gone inactive, what should WIN-911 do to the people that have already been notified? The default option is just to update them, send them another notification. For example, if I was down 5 people in the list and the alarm state changed, then I would just immediately re-notify all the previous people and then start notifying the rest of the list with the most up-to-date alarm information. So that's the default option, update previously notified contacts. Another option is to restart call out list. Now this is what version 7 would do, version 7 Pro. When there was an alarm state change, it would just jump back to the start of the list and start going back down again. So some people like to do it that way. And then the other option is just do nothing. Don't send a notification, just send the one notification, and that's pretty much it. So those are the options for re-notification. There's also the checkbox has always been here for auto act when an alarm becomes inactive. So if you want WIN-911 to acknowledge your alarms when they go to the inactive state, you can check that box and it will do so. We also have the voice override options down here, but they are, I know this is kind of annoying, this thing is in my way. This is for whether you want voice calls to be generated when an alarm goes inactive or acknowledged. This has just been here for a while. It prevents a bunch of phone calls from going out. So the default is to have those turned on, and it's most likely what you want to happen. So for example, you called somebody and you acknowledge an alarm, you don't want to call them again to tell them the alarm has been acknowledged. So that's what that option is for. And then almost every section has a used by section. That just tells you where you're using this particular object, or in this case, a notification policy. We just built it, so we're not using it anywhere, so there's nothing there. All right, so now we have a notification policy built. We have our contacts built. Next thing would be to bring your alarms in. So we'll jump over to Factory Talk because that's what I've got configured on here. And in here, you're going to see everything is on one screen here. It's under all these expanders, just like the other section. I've already got it filled in with some of the information to connect to Factory Talk. I'm just using this for an example. So once you connect, you can use the test button to make sure it's going to work. And then you have your subscriptions down here. So I'll show you guys the subscription control. I realize now I should have opened Studio earlier because that takes a minute to open. Jump back over here. So you got the name field. This is something that you just can type whatever you want. I know I'm going to filter in high priority alarms. So I'm going to call it high priority alarm subscription. And call it whatever you like to call it. And then you have the notification policy that it's going to be assigned to. Any alarms that are caught by this subscription are going to be sent to a notification policy of your choice. So we'll select the one that we just built, which was a live demo notification policy. Jump over here, make sure it keeps loading. And then we've got the option for add filter. So now this is where the main change came. We've got the option to filter things by, and for Factory Talk, the alarm class, group, name, and severity. So this is just specific to Factory Talk. So like I said earlier, I like to do filtering by groups, and I know there is a high priority group. You have these options for how you're going to do your text match. I'd usually use contains, but you could use wildcard too. So I'll do high priority. And I also want to make sure that whatever alarm I catch doesn't contain something else. So if I want to do something like and name does not contain, I could put, I don't know, it's just some kind of nuisance alarm. So something that you don't want popping in over and over again. So that could be anything. I mean, you could filter it by however you want. The reason I'm showing you this is because you couldn't really do this before in the last versions. We did have does not contain, but you couldn't and it with other options to make it really powerful. So that is something that is new to this version. So you can get real specific with what you want to filter on. And then if I wanted to add another filter, I could, and that's in another section down here. I could add it up here too. It's really up to however you want to configure it. And I could say, or it has a severity for Factory Talk, high severity is 1,000, or let's do a range of anything greater than 750 to 1,000. Then we will bring those in. So it either has to be part of this group and not contain something called door alarm, which that doesn't exist in the demo, or it just happens to be that the alarm severity is greater than 750. And then that would, all the alarms that match that will go to this notification policy. So if I wanted to add another one, I could do that and put in the criteria for that and send it to a different notification policy that can have a different call out list with a different set of people. So you can split up your configuration that way. I'm not going to do that. We also have watchdogs. Watchdogs are a feature where we check for changing alarm values or tags, and then if they don't see the change, then I'll let you know about that. So that really nothing's changed with that, just the way it looks here. So we'll save our application. I guess it doesn't really matter to look at Studio, to be honest. So I'll need it to turn alarms on and off in a second. I'm not going to go through every data source here, but I just want to show you another one where we have the tags imported. So I don't have InTouch running on here, but I did import some tags. If we go to the tag section, it will load them into this grid, and you can see them here. I gotta move that guy out of the way. And if we go to one that I know has an alarm on it, I think React Level does, then you can see where the alarming is enabled and you can put in your descriptions and whatnot. You have the search bar at the top. You can also filter your columns here and make your changes. So this is the way that the tags are laid out in every data source. So it doesn't change from one to the other. It's pretty much, they're all exactly the same. If you want to import, the button for that is going to be down here. I mean, I already got them all imported. I'll show you what it can show you is an import for OPC DA. If we go over to OPC, we have the heartbeat feature. If we're going to turn that on, you have the item ID field. This is the tag that you want to write your heartbeat to. You can click the browse button. It queries your server. I type in heartbeat. I've created one earlier. And put it in there and just save it, and we'll start writing the heartbeat to that tag. If you want to import tags, then you come over to the item section, click the import. It's going to query your server, put them all on a list. You can sort for or look for a particular tag, and say we find these two, tag 1 and tag 2. We want to move those over, go to the next section, and then we can take them over one by one and create alarms on them. So when you do OPC, it's different from a direct connect because we're not synced with their alarms. You're creating alarms based on their value. So you'd say tag 1 whenever it is greater than 500. I don't know what that tag actually has on it. Then you would send it to whatever notification policy, and then you click import. Oh wait, hold on. I'm sorry, I got to click move it over. And then you would click import. And then you do the same thing for tag 2, but maybe that's different and it was a discrete tag, and when it's equal to 1, then you can move it over and then you can import them. So that is the import for OPC, and then you can see they're laid out similar to InTouch. Next, I'll show you the reporting. Not a lot's changed here, but if you have tags that you are monitoring in a report, you just come over here and add them. These can be requested at any time, and you can see the value of these tags in real time. You can't push them with this version just because there's no advanced features yet, but you can only request them. And then here is the gateway section. This is where you configure all your notifier gateways. I've got email set up here, so you can see if I was going to do an incoming mail server, I'd check this box, and then I'd start filling in those details. If I wanted to add a notifier, remember the um, SMS modem wasn't configured, so I'd click plus, click SMS, and then I would configure the SMS gateway. So not a lot's changed with this. It's just the way it's laid out. It's different. And then of course we got our system info tab where it will show you your license information, customer care code, and stuff like that, and standby activate. And if you ever have any feedback that you'd like to send us, you can click the send feedback button. It will open up to our web page, put your name, email, tell us what you'd like to say, and we'll respond to all the feedback requests that we get. So that is the main changes that we made to Workspace. Again, this is a desktop app now. It opens much quicker than the old version. We're pretty happy with it. If we come over to the log viewer, you'll see it's been style has been updated a little bit. We're getting alarms coming in from factory talk. They're going in and out of alarm. Not much has changed with the log viewer, but you can export what you're seeing to a PDF or an Excel spreadsheet. You can do that on this screen or to the notification screen. I guess I don't need Studio. And the last thing I wanted to show you was the operator workspace. If I come over to this, this is the tool that is going to allow you to change your call out list really quickly. So when you open it, it comes straight to this section. You choose which call out list you want to change. You can change the order or remove somebody from the list. As soon as you hit the save button, that change takes effect, and then you just close it, and that's all you have to do to make the change. You can also change contact schedule here. So if you go to the connections tab, you can just go change their schedules. Maybe you don't take people in and out of notification policies. You just say change their schedule from always to never, and then just hit save. You could do it that way too. So that is what this tool is for. And again, you can run this from anywhere in your network as long as it has access to WIN-911. All right, so I'll go ahead and go back to our presentation and keep going. I want to talk about what SCADAs that we're supporting. We have cut down the supported list quite a bit for the Aviva products for InTouch and System Platform. We're claiming support for 2017 Update 3 and up. It doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't work with older versions. We haven't confirmed support with those, and we, as needed, we can add older versions, but we'd like to focus on the latest versions because, I mean, older, they get, I mean, we were supporting like all the way back to 10.1, which is like 10 years, might be older than 10 years. So we're just trying to cut down our supported list. Again, Aviva Edge is not supported. InduSoft Web Studio is the same thing. That's not going to be supported till the next release. For GE, we're going back to 5.8 SP2 for iFix, and then everything newer than that. Simplicity is 10 and 11. And for Factory Talk Alarm and Events, we're supporting 10 through 12. And nothing's really changed with OPC. It's still OPC DA Classic and all three versions of those. So that's what we're supporting for SCADA. For operating system support, we've cut that down to Windows Server 2016 and 2019, pretty much any one of the license levels there. And for desktop, we're supporting Windows 10 back to 1809 LTSC, which is their long-term servicing channel. So that's back from 2018 is when it was released. And then pretty much every single, pretty much all the builds up from then is what we will support. So we'll continue adding support for newer operating systems. And I know I've seen something about Windows 11 coming out. We'll be sure to add support for that. Pricing is not changing. We haven't changed our price for WIN-911 2021, so that will stay the same. We will be shipping 2021 for all new orders, even if they're for advanced. I know the advanced features aren't there. If you absolutely need the advanced tactics and advanced tactics, just let us know and we'll be sure to create a V4 license for you so you can install the older version and use that. That's no big deal. We're just it's easier for the process to just fill with 2021, and that's what we're going to do there. So pricing is the same, no changes there. If you want to upgrade to the new version, you do have to have a current customer care subscription. If you have a version 7 license, version 7 Pro, that can be converted into a 2021 interactive license. Just be aware that there is no version 7 import utility just yet. That's also going to come in the next release in Q3. So that would be the utility that takes your version 7 configuration and converts it into a 2021 configuration. That's just not available today. Standard and interactive license levels are supported. So if you have a version 4 license and it's standard or interactive, then you can run the installer and it will upgrade your configuration to the new version. If you have an advanced license, it will not let you upgrade. If we were to let you upgrade with an advanced license and you had that stuff configured, it would break your configuration and then you'd have a non-working system. So the installer just outright prevents those from happening. We're supporting migrations for WIN-911 3.19.5 and newer. So if you have that version or newer, you can run the installer on top of that version and it will migrate your configuration. If you don't have that version, then you need to upgrade to one of the newer versions from 3.19.5, which there's several, and then you can upgrade to 2021. And that's just because we drew a line in the sand there. Most of our users are on Core 3 is what we called it, or version 3. So we're hoping that that shouldn't be an issue. Of course, if you need help with any of these things, you can always contact our product support team or our sales team for more information about that. To run 2021, you need a new license. And so we've always used CodeMeter for licensing. We're still using that, but the existing licenses that were in it will not work for 2021. So you need to request a new license. And you can do that on our website. If you go to win911.com, go to support license activation, there will be an option for you there to request a new license. even without that license, if you upgrade or you install a new copy of 2021, it does include a 30-day trial. That's what I was using for the demo just a second ago. So you don't have to have it right away. You could install 2021 and use that 30-day trial, so you have a grace period for how long you have until you have to actually license it. We've also made it, I didn't make any slide or any mention of it, but we've changed some of our settings in CodeMeter so that licenses won't break as easy. I know that we've had issues where a license will show invalid because some hardware changes occurred, or in some cases it seemed like no hardware changes occurred. We've made changes to um, our CodeMeter instance or License Central instance from Weeboo, so that should not happen nearly as much. So we're pretty excited about that. What the option will look like on this on our webpage, you'll choose the option for WIN-911 2021 upgrade license request. Select that, fill out the form, and we'll send you back the activation key that you need for it. That's for whether you're using version 3, version 4, or version 7. It doesn't matter. You need to go through that process for an upgrade. We did change our alarm source licensing for this version as well, and now it's going to include a single SCADA node connection and a single OPC connection, meaning I can connect to any one of the direct connects and one OPC server. And if I want to connect to anything else, then you need to purchase additional nodes. So for example, if you were connecting to both InTouch and System Platform, you'd have to purchase an additional node to make that possible. The reason I'm mentioning this is a change from the way we've done it before. So this is different. If you have questions about this, of course, you can contact our sales team and they'll be happy to help you out. We've also got a new online license portal. I guess I kind of showed you guys a demo with no audio of what it looks like, but it allows you to activate your license whenever you need to or whenever you want, rather than waiting for us to respond to a request during business hours. You do have to register the software that you buy before you can use it. So if you purchase WIN-911, you'll go to this registration page on our website. They'll send you back an activation key, and then you can activate that at any time that you want. And that was the website I was showing you earlier. So that is the new online license portal. Now, I did show you an online activation, but there's an offline activation too. I mean, technically it's online, but if your WIN-911 system does not have an internet connection, you can go to a different machine and activate from there, and then put the file back on the WIN-911 system. All that's covered in our knowledge base article about the active license activations that you're free to check out. And these were the screenshots of what I was trying to show you. This is what the offline looks like. Offline activation, you upload your file and it downloads the file, and then you put it on the WIN-911 machine. If you want to download WIN-911, just go to the website, go to products, download WIN-911, fill out a form. It will take you to the download page. And here you can download it. You can check out the release notes for what's new down there. It will tell you everything that we've changed in the software. You can also see the system requirements link at the top. So you can download it today as of this morning. So what's next for us? We're working on our 2021 R2 release. I don't know why I've left it off the slide, but one of the bigger thing that we're working on there is to include the advanced features for R2, and as well as a version 7 import utility and adding support for Viva Web Studio. So if you need any of those things, then you'll be waiting for that release, which again, we're targeting for the end of Q3 for. We're also looking at things like a dashboard, status failover, redundancy, options, backup, configuration backup and restore utility, and Teams and Slack integration. So these screenshots here were just an example, kind of what we're looking at for dashboards. These are just crude mock-ups, where what we'll do is we'll look at ISA 18.2 and pull a lot of the standard metrics there that companies need to be in compliance with, as well as reaching out to a lot of our partners to review the designs and make sure we're including things that you guys are interested in. So this is something, a glimpse of what a dashboard kind of would look like in WIN-911. You kind of see at the top two, the status module, which would be showing you the status of different WIN-911 modules, so you know if it's working. A more A bigger picture of what that would look like, a status modules, it would show you all the modules here, what their states are, error messages, and you could send these notifications out based on what's failing, and also set up failover logic based on what modules are not working. If you have feature requests that you'd like to let us know about, we have a feature request board online that you're more than welcome to check out and submit upvote existing feature requests.